This is a study in the construction of a highly engineered culinary structure, a central protein substrate encapsulated within a flash-fried carbohydrate matrix. The primary failure mode of this structure is catastrophic structural delamination, the process where the outer coating separates and slides off the core during thermal processing. Preventing this failure requires deconstructing a standard 8-step preparation protocol into its baseline chemistry and physics. This technical cross-section shows the architecture of a successful build. We can isolate 3 distinct functional zones: the central meat core, the thin adhesion boundary layer immediately surrounding it, and the aerated outer batter coating. Executing this structure repeatedly relies entirely on precise material science and moisture control, leaving no room for culinary intuition. Building that outer matrix begins with isolating the raw inputs required before any coating takes place. We can categorize these materials into 3 distinct functional groups: the structural components, chemical leavening agents, and hydration binders. The physical properties and the final texture of the casing depend on the volumetric ratios of the dry structural components. Step 2 of the protocol establishes the required baseline metric, a strict 1-to-1 volumetric ratio of 2 distinctly milled grains. Securing this specific structural ratio provides the foundation for the build. Without this baseline stability, the subsequent mechanics of flavor and surface adhesion have no reliable framework to support them. The 2 structural components required to form the matrix are exactly 1 cup of all-purpose flour and 1 cup of yellow cornmeal. The all-purpose flour provides the primary continuous gluten network, which acts as the necessary scaffolding for baseline structural integrity. This model shows the interaction. The grid represents the gluten network. Larger cornmeal verticals act as physical interrupters, preventing an overly dense casing. Adding baking powder, the primary chemical leavening agent, aerates the matrix by creating empty pockets during thermal expansion. The dry base is finalized with 1/4 cup of sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and an 1/8 teaspoon of pepper. The sugar serves a dual role, establishing the base flavor, while setting up a specific chemical reaction required during the final phase. The resulting dry matrix is a carefully calculated equilibrium between tensile structural strength, deliberate particulate disruption, and aeration potential. That dry equilibrium remains inert until the hydration phase, where it is chemically activated by the introduction of liquid binders. Exactly 1 cup of milk and 1 large egg are incorporated into the bowl to achieve this exact consistency. The milk and the egg serve a dual mechanical purpose. They hydrate the raw starches while providing the liquid proteins required to hold the aerated matrix together. This process transitions the system from a collection of loose, dry particulates into a highly viscous, cohesive fluid capable of securely enveloping the core substrate. Yet, even with a perfectly hydrated and viscous matrix, the moment of application to the substrate introduces the highest risk of systemic failure. A chemically perfect batter formulation serves no practical purpose if it fails to physically bind to its target surface under extreme thermal stress. This brings us back to the specific system error identified earlier: the fluid batter completely delaminating and sliding off the frankfurter during the cooking process. Step 4 of the protocol dictates a specific mechanical intervention to prevent this, explicitly patting the frankfurters dry before coating. When this step is ignored, the system suffers from steam-induced delamination, which is the root physical cause of batter adhesion failure. Left, Model A represents a wet substrate in high heat. Residual moisture converts into expanding vapor, pushing the outer coating away. Right, Model B shows the properly dried substrate, maintaining a direct, unbroken mechanical bond with the viscous batter, remaining entirely stable despite external thermal energy. The success of the bond rests on the surface condition of the substrate. If the frankfurter is dry, the system remains stable. If it is wet, the structure fails, regardless of the quality of the batter. The final phase of the protocol requires submerging the fully coated, dry bonded substrate into a high-temperature lipid bath. Steps 3 and 6 establish the strict thermal parameters for this phase. The deep fryer or saucepan oil must be preheated to exactly 375 degrees Fahrenheit, or 190 degrees Celsius. The process operates on a strict timing parameter, frying multiple units for roughly 3 minutes to achieve an optimal structural set. During this specific 3-minute window, the quarter cup of sugar from the initial dry matrix acts as an accelerator, ensuring the exterior finishes browning before the core substrate overcooks. This chart visualizes the editor's note data regarding the final chemical composition of the food. It tracks the system's lipid retention post-extraction, displaying the metric dropping rapidly during the draining process before leveling out at a 10% retention value. While this 10% value serves as a reliable baseline, specific operational variables, such as ingredient density and temperature fluctuations, can alter the final lipid retention metric. Preventing structural failure and achieving the ideal end state requires the exact synchronization of dry matrix chemistry, precise interface moisture control, and targeted thermal processing.